Hey guys, here we are in the fourth part of the iPhone tutorial, and hopefully you've had a chance to go through and watch the first three parts where we modeled this out. In this part we're going to do the materials, textures, and lighting and rendering. Okay, and there's a couple things I forgot to do during the modeling section, and I just want to take care of that before we start on this. Okay, so here's our model from the end of that section, and I forgot to name some of the pieces, and that's really an important thing to do whenever you're modeling. On a scene like this, it's not really that big of a deal because we don't have a lot of objects, but if you're working on a massive scene that has hundreds or thousands of objects, it's always a good practice just to get in the habit of naming everything properly. Especially if you're going to pass it on to somebody else, you want to make sure that you give it some kind of proper naming convention rather than just leaving things generically named like box 1 or cylinder 12. You're really not going to be able to find things in your scene, especially with a lot of objects. So it's always a good idea to just take the time to name things correctly. Okay, so before we get started on the texturing, let's actually just take care of this quickly. All right, and we named some of the parts during the modeling part, but I forgot to do a few of the buttons and stuff. So let's just get rid of a few of these objects that we've already named. All right, so we have the front glass that we've already named that, so I'm just gonna right-click and hide select it. Same with the back glass. All right, we'll grab the back of the phone here, which we've already named. And I'm just going to break this down until we find objects that we don't have names assigned to. And you can also do that by hitting H and looking through the list. And you can open that up as well as by hitting this button up here. All right, so let's grab this piece here. Okay, we still have this one called box 1, and that should actually be the frame part. So let's just call it black frame or whatever you like. Okay, and we'll check the headphone jack. We have that named. Let's grab the button here. We have that named. Alright, so I'm just going to go over this really quick, and we'll just try to give this some proper names. Okay, so we have the frame there that's named border top. Okay, now we don't have this stuff named here, so let's give this a name. Let's call it camera glass, and hide that. Okay, we'll call this inner piece here camera lens. Call this one camera inner border maybe. Doesn't really matter what your names are as long as you know what they go to. And we'll call this camera frame. Okay, over here we have the flash, so let's call this flash lens. And flash, whoops, border. And let's hide both those. Okay, I want to call this front speaker mesh. And hide it. Okay, we have that one named and that one named, so let's get rid of both these. Okay, we'll go over here. Okay, we've already named all this stuff. Let's go hide that. And those. Okay, so we'll add the home button there. Screws are already named. And let's call this speaker mesh left. And speaker mesh right. Okay, we'll hide this as well. Okay, now we didn't name any of the parts inside the USB port here. Let me just get rid of this realistic shading for a second. Alright, so we'll call this USB frame. Or let's just call it port. That makes more sense. Call this one USB blocker. And I know this is extremely exciting. We're almost done though. Okay, let's grab the pins there. Let's call it USB pins. Hide that. Okay, so I think the only thing that we have left is these little rubber pieces that we had in the border frame. So let's just call this maybe I don't know, border gap filler. And let's do a 1 on that. And you can definitely come up with some better names here if you want. I'm just going as quick as possible. Okay, so I think we got everything. Let's unhide all. Let's go hit H here and check. Okay, we still have one called box 2. Let's find that. And we'll call that button dash mute. All right, I just want to take care of this now so that, when we're applying materials and stuff, we can just quickly select things rather than, hunting around and trying to figure out what's what. All right, so now that we have this cleaned up, we'll actually start with some mapping. Okay, and we're going to use procedural materials on, the majority of the model. So there's really no reason to use or to UV map it. You don't really need to worry about doing that if you're using procedural materials. There's certain cases you will need to have mapping on it. Like if you're using a V-Ray paint shader, for example, but in our case, we really only need to lay down UVs on the screen, the home button, and the back here where we have the actual logo, Apple logo, and the text. Okay, but other than that, everything else is not going to need mapping. Okay, so before we start mapping this, we actually need to detach these polygons here in the center for the screen off of this, front piece. So I'm going to hide this front glass. We'll grab this piece here, which is the body front piece, and we'll just hide unselected here. Okay, and let's delete the turbo smooth here. So we have our original mesh, and we'll go into polygon. Let's go to the front view, and we're just going to select the polygons for the screen here. Okay, and we want to make sure that we get it right up to the edge here. Okay, so I'm just going to grow this once to expand it. All right, I'm just going to try to zoom in there. And just make sure that we have them all the way up to that edge. Okay, so I want them right up to that back edge there. All right, and now we'll just go over to detach, and we'll just detach this as screen. All right, and make sure you have these unchecked. We don't want to do a clone. We actually want to cut this right out of the model. So hit OK to that. That'll break it off as a separate object. And then we'll just do our turbo smooth here. So let's put that back on the front face and 2 iterations and isoline display. Okay, and you can still see that the corners are, fairly sharp here, which is good. All right, so let's hide that. So we just have the screen object here. And if you want to, you can actually, clean this up. We don't even really need to have any of these edges on here now. And let's just do that quick. Let's drag through these center edges. We'll hit loop and control backspace to take them out. And we also have those supporting edges that are around the edge here. You can take those out if you want. There's really no point, so I'm just going to leave them. Okay, and so we'll just map this really quick, and let's put an unwrap on. So Unwrap Uvw Modifier. All right, I'm just going to go into polygon here, click on a polygon, expand the selection using this button here, and then we'll just do a quick planar map down here. Okay, and that's it. Let's hit Open UV Editor here, and that's our faces. And because we planar mapped it, we really don't need to relax it down, but we will scale it slightly just to fit it in here a little bit better. Okay, I want it to be pretty big, or as big as we can get it. Okay, and I also have another tutorial that I did a while ago that's actually on the Unwrap modifier. So if you're unfamiliar with mapping, you can go check that out. It's pretty simple, but it might help somewhat. And at some point I'll do maybe a more advanced one on some more complicated geometry. But anyways, we only need to do that for this piece, so let's get out of that. And that part's mapped. Okay, it's always a good idea to check your UVs with a checker image. So let's just do that quick. I'm just going to hit M to open up the material library, or editor, sorry. We'll grab a new slot here. Let's just go down to one of these ones, and we'll just open up the map channel here for the diffuse and put in a bitmap. Okay, and I have some textures here that we're going to be using on the phone. Let me just switch this to all formats here, and also we'll include just this basic checker image. Okay, so let's open that up. We'll assign it to the model and show it in the view part so we can see those checkers. And we'll just turn up the tiling a little bit here. Let's do like 2 by 2, make it a little smaller. Okay, and because we planar map that, obviously we have no distortion on this. We want to make sure that these checkers are square. Okay, so that looks good. That'll take care of the mapping on the screen. Okay, so let's unhide all here for a second. And we'll go down and we'll do the button here. All right, so let's grab the home button, hide everything else. Zoom in on it by hitting Z. And I'm thinking we might have that a little too deep. Let me look at it from the side. Yeah, I think that's actually punched in a little too much. Let's fix it quick. Let's take off the turbo smooth for a second by deleting it. I'm going to go into vertex here. And I think the best way to flatten this out will be just grab these verts here with the move tool. Okay, just the inside verts. None of the ones on the front edge. Okay, and then we'll go over into the modifier list and we'll put on freeform deformer 2x2. Okay, and drop this down to control points, and we'll just grab the 2 control points at the back here, and we'll just push that out a bit. Okay, that's going to allow us to kind of flatten this out a little bit more. Okay, this works pretty much the same as the lattice modifier in Maya if you're a Maya user. Okay, I want to make that a little bit more flat, and I think that looks a little better. Okay, so we'll do something like that. Let's turn this off for a second. Let's go back up to the FFD, and we want to collapse that onto those verts. So let's right click on the FFD here and collapse to, hit hold yes. Okay, we also need to just adjust this loop here. Just going to loop this edge, and we'll just kind of position this so it's a little bit more smooth. I'm going to move it forward slightly. All right, just to kind of round out that curve a little bit more before we put the turbo smooth back on. Okay, let's check it out here. All right, I think that looks a little better. All right, so now we'll map it, and on this one, just to minimize any distortion that's going to be on the actual button logo here when we get this on there, I'm actually going to collapse one iteration of the turbo smooth down onto the mesh. Okay. If we were to map it like this and then apply turbo smooth later on to smooth it out, chances are we're going to get some distortion in around the center here of these polygons. All right, so just to be on the safe side, let's collapse the turbo smooth down with one iteration, and be sure you uncheck isolon display here. You definitely don't want to collapse it to editable poly with that on. It's going to completely screw up the model. Okay, so always make sure you uncheck that, and just set your iterations here, and then collapse it down to editable poly. Okay, so now we'll put on another unwrap. Okay, and you can see when I put that on, we have some junk UV cuts here, or seams. If you want to get rid of that, you can just actually put on a UV mapping clear. Okay, you can put that on first, then convert it to editable poly. That'll strip any mapping off of the model that's there by default, and then we can just put the unwrap on, and you won't have those green seams. Okay, so let's go maybe to edge here. Go to zoom in, and we'll do maybe the inside here. Okay, so zoom in there pretty close. We're just going to grab an edge here, hit Z to zoom in on it. All right, so let's grab maybe the one right on the corner there. Let's do a loop on it by hitting this button. Okay, we'll convert that into a seam by hitting this button here. Okay, and that's going to make it blue, which is a mapping seam. That'll let us cut out the middle. We also need to flatten out the outside. We can do that by just cutting a seam somewhere around this. Okay, so we'll go in maybe at the bottom here. Let's turn edge on with F4. And we could do this with an edge selection, or we could do it with point-to-point seam here. So let's go to point-to-point. I'm going to click on the back vert here, and then we're going to go up and continue this up until we get to the original seam we put in there. Okay, so just click and then right click to end it. Okay, so just like that. That's all the cuts we need to make here. Turn that off. Let's go to polygon again. Grab polygon in the center, expand the selection. And we'll just do maybe a planar map on this. Okay, and then we'll select a polygon on the outside, expand the selection, and we'll do a pelt map on this one. Okay, so let's hit start pelt. Okay, that's good. Hit commit. And don't worry if it's twisted up still, we can fix that in a second. So we'll just flatten these out. All right, let's maybe do a relax on this. Crank that up. Let's do it by face angles, hit start relax. And because this is going to be just a solid color from our texture, it really doesn't matter if the UVs are perfect or not. So we can actually just hit straighten UVs here, straighten that out. Okay, it needs to be relaxed down, but it really doesn't matter for something like this. So we're actually going to leave it straight. And we'll maybe just relax the front here. It might twist up a little bit on us, but we'll try it. Okay, that's fine. So let's close this. Grab both these elements here, and we're just going to hit rescale. Put them in the proper scale to each other. And again, that really doesn't matter on something like this because we're just going to be using a solid color for our texture. So there's really no reason to waste texture space trying to fit this side part in. We can actually just move that up and scale this up to fill, pretty much the 0 to 1 grid here. We want to have the largest texture we can. I'm just going to scale it up something like that, and we'll park it right about there. We'll grab this one and let's rotate it 90 degrees, and I'm just going to scale this way down. Okay, let's fit it in over here. And we don't want to overlap it, with any of this part here, because when we put that home button logo on here, part of it's going to show up, on the side of the button if we have this overlapped in the center here anywhere. So we want to park it off to the side here, and we'll just leave it like that. Okay, and that's all the mapping on that one. So let's put our checker on there and we'll just see how it looks. Okay, and we really only want to make sure that we have no stretching in the very center here. If we have some up at the edge here, as you can see it's a little twisted, that's not going to be noticeable at all. We just want to make sure that the center is flattened out as good as possible. Okay, you can see the side checkers are quite stretched. If you want to fix that, again, it doesn't really matter for something like this, but if you do, you can just scale this down here like this until you get those checkers squared out. Okay, but again, that really doesn't matter, so we're just going to skip over that. Alright, so that's good for the mapping. We don't have any distortion. So one more to do here, and let's unhide all. Spin around the back. We'll grab the glass and hide it. Grab the back frame, hide, unselect it. Okay, and this one, we need to cut out the inside of these holes here in order for us to flatten this back face out. So what we'll do here is again collapse down the turtle smooth onto the model with one iteration. Okay, so we'll take that down to 1, turn this off, and we'll just collapse this right to editable poly. Okay, and let's put on a UV map and clear, convert it back to editable poly, put it on Unwrap, go to edge, and we'll start here on the camera hole. Let's grab an edge somewhere around the outside and hit Z. Okay, let's do maybe that one there, and let's loop it, convert it to a seam. And we also need to split it from that edge to the back so that it can unfold, and we'll just do that on the bottom edge here by using point to point. Okay, so start that back vert all the way back to the front, right click. Same thing over here on this one. Back vert all the way to this front edge and then right click. Okay, and then we'll go back to edge here, grab this edge, loop it, convert it to a seam. Okay, and that's all the cuts we need to make. That'll let us cut out those holes. So we'll go back to polygon, grab a polygon here on the inside of this camera hole, expand the selection, and we'll just pelt map that again. That's fine, so let's hit commit. Let's move this over to the side here. Do the same thing with the other hole. Expand the selection and pelt map it. Okay, and for the back, let's grab a face and expand that. Okay, then I'll fill the entire back. So we'll just do a planar map on this one, and we'll just move it over. Okay, I know I'm going a little fast here, but this really isn't intended to be a mapping tutorial. So let's just relax these two down. Okay, so let's let those go out a bit, and you can see this one's twisting up, so we'll just do the same thing here, straighten it out, straighten this one out as well. And again, the mapping doesn't have to be perfect on these pieces from the inside of the hole. The only thing we're really worried about is this back face. Okay, so let's grab and rescale them. Let's scale that all down at once. Okay, and we want this back faces here to kind of fill the entire 0 to 1 grid here from top to bottom. Okay, and we're gonna have to just grab these pieces here and move them over. Just gonna fit it in like this. And we'll just park these over here somewhere. Okay, and again, it doesn't matter if they're perfect. That should be fine for our mapping. Okay, so we'll turn off the unwrap there and apply our checker. Turn off the tiling a bit. Let's do 5 by 5. And we'll just make sure we have no stretching here. Okay, so that's good. Let's unhide all. Just gonna hit M, right click on the material here, select by material, select those objects, and we'll just put our gray shader back on them now that they're mapped. Okay, so that's all the mapping we need, and the rest will just be procedural materials.